outside? Sounds like hell. It's definitely been a minute since I have done one of my self-care, self-love type of videos, but I was getting so many things today to respond to about imposter syndrome, and it's something that came up like 5 times when I was talking to my patrons. Like, just sometimes I'll check up on them, ask them how they're doing, and about 5, 6 of them were saying things about imposter syndrome, and I was like, this is something that I've got to talk about today. I've got to do a video on imposter syndrome. So occasionally I will upload videos about self-love, self-care, I'll talk and stuff like that. So I wanted to do just, something chill, laid back, something different on my channel that I really do want to talk about. So we're going to talk about imposter syndrome today. I really do feel like I'm on the radio with my microphone here, but we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, and I'm going to tell you guys a little story about myself dealing with imposter syndrome and some tips that can also help you guys when you're dealing with imposter syndrome. Okay, so how I deal with it, what it is. Imposter syndrome, to me, like, I don't know the textbook definition. You can probably look it up on Google, but to me, it's a feeling of being fraudulent despite having certain skills, despite knowing that you have a talent, a gift. It's this feeling of like inadequacy that you have, especially when you're doing something new. It's this feeling like you're not really being authentic. Even if you are, it's this feeling that you're going to be exposed or caught as like a fraud type of person. And it can often stem from periods of low self-esteem, but literally everybody struggles with this in their lives, and probably several times. We just don't talk about it. It's one of those more like hidden feelings that people tend to like be ashamed of, like envy and jealousy. It's one of those that it's like taboo, like don't talk about it, but we all feel it to some degree throughout our lives. And my most recent experience with imposter syndrome, literally just a few months, maybe a few months now, maybe 2 months max ago. As many of you know, I started this channel as Tarot by Bronx, and my name on everything, all my platforms, is Tarot by Bronx. And so now that I'm in the process of trying to integrate another system, which is human design — this is not human design by Bronx — I struggle with imposter syndrome of feeling like, do I even know what I'm telling these people? Do I even know what I'm talking about? Do I know what I'm doing? Do I know what I'm saying? I'm trying to teach you guys about something that I'm very passionate about, something new, and it is hard to like fully feel like I'm the person to be talking about this. I'm like, there's probably somebody more knowledgeable than me. There's people that know more. I don't even know if this is what I'm supposed to be talking about. And I struggle with those feelings, and I definitely struggled with bringing up the conversation of human design because I was nervous as to like people gonna be like, what are you doing? Like, stick to the tarot, like we don't care, So there's a lot of fears surrounding that. Many of them have subsided as I continue to go down this path and continue to discuss tarot and integrate it with human design. It's gotten a lot easier, but the feelings never fully go away. Still there, still comes up. I still have those thoughts, and I still wonder, am I a fraud? Even though I know that I'm not in my heart. It's just it's the ego talking. Imposter syndrome, self-esteem issues really stems from ego, but that's another video for another day. If you want me to talk about, ego and what I've learned about ego, leave me a comment. Let me know if you want me to go into it, because I definitely have been wanting to do a video on that as well. So, let me see something real quick. 1 second. Hello? Okay. I was trying to make sure it was turned up enough so I don't have to like yell. Because it's really late, actually. It's later. I don't usually do videos late, but I was just so wanting to do this. Okay. So let's talk about imposter syndrome and how it showed up in my life otherwise. Oh, no, we already talked about that, but it's showed up many times. That was just the most recent example. I've also had imposter syndrome when it comes down to doing tarot. Literally, with any new thing that I've wanted to do, I've struggled with some form of imposter syndrome. All right, so number 1, we're going to go through a list of 10 things that you can think about, things that you can do, and that can help you understand more about what imposter syndrome is and how you can overcome it during the different stages of your life, okay? So, number 1, ask yourself, who am I trying to impress, right? So when we do things, oftentimes we are looking for some type of outside validation. We're trying to impress people. We're trying to prove to ourselves or others that we know what we're doing, that we're competent. But really ask yourself, who are you trying to impress, and why is their approval so important to you? Okay? The things that we do should really just be because we want to, from our hearts, because that's what's important to us. And if other people applaud us, which there will be somebody that applauds you, that's fantastic. But it should not be, we are just so hard on ourselves because we really want to impress our friends. We want to impress our parents, our family. We want to prove that we are capable of succeeding in some way. And so you have to really address that pressure that you've put on yourself from these people outside of yourself, okay? So that's the first one. 2, be realistic and release perfectionism. This is probably one of the hardest things to do, especially if you're a Virgo placement like me. You know how we are super perfectionists, right? And Capricorns too. Virgo and Capricorns are probably have the worst perfectionism ever. But being realistic and releasing perfectionism is you reminding yourself that no one starts as an expert. No one in nothing. Like when you look at people and you say, OMG, I can't do that because I could never be like that. I'm not where they are. Where do you think they started? Like, yes, some people have natural gifts and abilities. We all have talents. We have things that we're good at, right? But nobody starts 100% perfect. That's not realistic. Nobody never messes up. Nobody never makes a mistake. These are all very unrealistic expectations. And if you are using perfectionism as a way to procrastinate, because ultimately they're two sides of the same coin, you really need to ask yourself that question of, are my expectations of myself realistic? Like, honestly, if somebody like your friend or somebody you care about were to tell you what you're telling yourself, like, I'm not going to do this thing that I have talent for, that I'm excited about, because I know I'm not perfect at it. If somebody repeated that back to you, would you be like, you'd probably be like, what are you talking about? Like, you sound crazy. So that's something to consider is, are your expectations of yourself realistic to what you're trying to do? Are you expecting yourself to be an expert in something, to never mess up, to have all the answers? And if so, your expectations are unrealistic. And and you are probably a perfectionist. But with being a perfectionist, you will not get as far as you want to get because you will not be able to appreciate any of your progress. Next thing, this is a big one. Number 3, speak your shame. Kind of like what I'm doing right now. We tend to look at imposter syndrome as something that we should all be very ashamed of. It does have these feelings of shame because it's like something we want to suppress, these feelings of unworthiness of the things that we desire, the things that we deserve, the things we're trying to accomplish. But shame can only thrive in silence. When you remove the silence from shame, it shrivels. SSS. ASMR. Look, I got my ASMR microphone. But anyway. So speaking things that you are ashamed of really causes the shame to die, ultimately. It takes its power away. Because shame is, what is it called? I guess breeds in silence. So the things that you keep silent, the things that you keep hidden are where shame resides, because it can't be shame unless it's hidden. So I don't know what my cat is doing on the floor. But anyway, so when you talk to somebody you trust or you speak about things that you're ashamed of, it normalizes it. It forms a community around you. It allows you a chance to receive compassion and acceptance and understanding. There is fear of sharing shame because of potential rejection, but you'd be surprised the more you share things with people, how many people literally go through the same things. If you were to Google it right now and you look up celebrities that struggle with imposter syndrome, you'd see so many that you never would think were struggling. You'd never think were, have self-confidence issues, have mental health issues, have anxiety, depression. All of these things are so normal, but we are so egocentric. We think that we're the only ones dealing with this, and we're not. And that's why you have to talk about these things, and that's why I'm talking about it to you, so you know that you're not the only one that deals with this, and maybe you'll feel more normal, and maybe I'll feel more normal too. Well, that kind of goes into my 4th one, which was normalizing your feelings. It is very normal to experience these feelings that you're feeling. People think that, like I said, you're the only one feeling this way in the whole wide world, or you shouldn't be feeling it to the extent that you are feeling it. And it is absolutely normal to feel the way you do. And especially when you're starting something new, have some grace and compassion with yourself. It is harder. It's easier said than done. But when you're starting new things, it's normal to not feel good enough, to you haven't built up the confidence muscle. Confidence literally is a muscle. The difference between courage and confidence is the state of being. Courage is the state of doing. It takes courage to build confidence. Without courage, you would not be able to get to confidence. So use your courage to do the things you're afraid of, and over time, you will build confidence as you get more familiar with it, okay? Next is number 5. Remind yourself that people want to hear what you have to say. We tend to hyper fixate on the glass half empty rather than half full. We think about all these people that are going to reject me, people that are not going to like me, people that are going to dismiss me, people that are going to ignore me. And we completely disregard, all these people that are going to like what I have to hear, that never seen me do anything like this, that are going to be excited for me, that are going to cheer me on. We automatically go to the place of Oh my God, the people who aren't going to like me, the people who aren't going to support me. And we don't even give it a chance to develop to the people who will like us. And so you have to remind yourself that there are going to be people that want to hear what you have to say. And more often than not, there are going to be more people that want to hear what you have to say than not. But realistically speaking, yes, there are going to be people that might be like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't like this. That's okay. For every one person that doesn't like what you're doing, there will be 5 that do. I guarantee. You have to try it though. Number 6, you are your own worst critic. Your ego is loud. You know, our egos do a really bad job at trying to protect us. Your ego's job is to protect you from shame. Our egos try to overcompensate for the stories we tell ourselves when we feel shame. So if we're telling ourselves a story that, you know, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy of this, I don't know what I'm doing, our egos will do one of 2 things. One, it'll try to overcompensate and prove itself that we are worthy, and we'll end up doing more work. We'll end up working 10 times harder than we should have. We'll end up trying to impress these people that don't matter. Or our ego will try to invalidate the statement or validate the statement that we're not good enough, and we won't do anything. And we'll say, well, I won't even give it a chance. And so when you let ego take over in that regard, it's just a lose-lose situation, because it's invalidating these good things, and it's validating the not true beliefs that you've formed about yourself. So you have to be careful. Nobody is criticizing you and watching you the way that you are, not in the same way. It's not embarrassing to other people like it is to you. And other people do not hold on to it as personally as you do. So just know you are the only one thinking these thoughts as much as you are, as frequently as you are. You're the only one judging yourself this hard. I promise. I'm 100% sure. Next thing, number 7, imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a good sign that you're uncomfortable. And oftentimes when you are uncomfortable doing something new, it means you're growing in some way. Either you're growing and you're learning more about yourself, you're learning more about what you like, you're learning more about what you don't like. But when you're doing something that you enjoy, but it's scary and you're uncomfortable, that's a good thing. It means you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to expand, to grow, to learn more. If every time you did something you were comfortable, like too much so, it would be boring. Anything that's too comfortable is boring. It's just boring. And you have to really push past that discomfort of feeling like this is just so new to me. Like if you never push past that feeling, you'll never get to the satisfaction that it brings when you are just comfortable enough, but it still challenges you a little bit. But you're comfortable enough to feel at peace about the situation or about whatever your skills that you're inhibiting. 8, reflect on your success. This is something that we also do not do enough. Leading up to new things, if we make a mistake, we fixate on that mistake and we feel like I'm just a failure. I never did anything right. Everything was a waste, yada, yada, yada. But it's important to reflect on the ways in which you didn't mess up, that you did the right things, that you followed through, that you've seen progress. So maybe you should keep a progress journal. For many of you, it would be a good thing to keep a journal of your achievements, small, medium, big, and reflect back on it, because there are things that we like. I definitely take a lot of screenshots of like testimonials I get, people saying encouraging words, So I can remember in those times where I want to give up, I don't feel good, I don't feel like I'm doing anything right, I don't feel like I'm doing good enough. I look back on those praises and it helps. It helps me to remember. And then sometimes I feel kind of dumb. I'm like, why did I even think that? Because it's just a feeling. It's just a passing thought. Try not to attach so much truth to passing thoughts and feelings. Try to just let thoughts sometimes float by like clouds. They don't always need you to attach to them. Number 9, imposter syndrome will come up during different times in our lives. So every time you're going to grow, every time you're in something new, you're likely going to face imposter syndrome again. I'm sorry to tell you. But it gets easier every time because you remember the other times that you were faced with imposter syndrome. You had courage to stand up to it, and you built your confidence against that thing that felt new, that was scary, that you didn't know how to do. And now look at you. You're an expert, pretty much. And so when you look back on those things where you were challenged in the past and you saw that you overcame it, it does give you a confidence boost. But if you allow imposter syndrome to cause you to not move forward, to stop, to stay stagnant, you'll never build up that confidence muscle, like I said earlier. And then you won't have much to reflect back on with the time that you faced the imposter syndrome because you're like, oh, I always ran from it instead of running through it. Because it does pass. It does pass eventually. As you get more familiar with something, it has no choice but to pass because you're familiar at that point. But to expect it to never show up is unrealistic. It will show up no matter how confident you are. The levels and degrees of which it shows up will be different, but remember, it will come again and you'll know how to deal with it the next time. The last but most important, the last but not least, the number 1 reason, even though this is number 10, the number 1 thing I do to stand up to imposter syndrome is to do what my brain tells me I can't do. So in this case, my brain was like, I don't know if you should do this human design because people might say XYZ, people don't understand, you know, you're still fairly new to this, whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna still post anyway. I'm gonna still tweet anyway. I'm gonna still post on Instagram and we'll see what happens. And you know what? Not one person criticized me. Not one person said, this is stupid, like I thought they would. Not one person said, what are you doing? Like, people were like, I've never heard of this. This is very interesting. I want to learn more. You changed my life. This is so cool. All of these things that I didn't even think that people would say because I was so focused on the negative people who could say things that were bad or mean or whatever. I didn't even focus on the people that actually wanted to hear what I had to say. So you see what I'm saying? You have to fake it till you make it sometimes. And a lot of people would not know by looking at me, the way I speak, the way I talk, the way I act. You wouldn't think that I struggle with this, that I'm nervous about things, because I'm pretty calm on the surface. I'm calm, cool, collected. Scorpio, rising, moon, Mars. Very relaxed, very chill. But I am always, the mind is always going. This Virgo, this is a Virgo mind. Scorpio outside, Virgo inside. I'm always worried. I'm always overthinking. I always have anxiety, always. I can't imagine a day where I didn't overthink. I was born with anxiety, just right out the womb. And so I overthink a lot of things, but what I don't do is change my mind. You get what I'm saying? So I'll overthink things, but I'll still go with my original thought. I said I wanted to do this. I said I wanted to make this video. I said I wanted to do this topic. I said I wanted to do this. Just do it. Nike. I'm going to do it anyway. My mind is telling me no. My mind is like, you're going to look crazy. You're going to look stupid. You're going to look this. You're going to look dumb. And I'm like, oh, well. And it sounds very easy. It sounds very simple, but I just don't let my mind beat me up. Like, I'm going to fight my mind. Like, your mind is not as smart as you think it is. It's not. Our mind is based off of like experiences and things we've seen and perception. It doesn't know as much as like your body, your energy, your soul. So I just really do my best not to let my mind take over. And I go with my initial thought, whatever that was. Before the doubts kick in, before the fears kick in, I do what I said that I was going to do anyway. And most of the time, I'm building that confidence muscle and it does not turn out bad. It turns out just fine every time. So our minds will play out scenarios that seem like the worst thing in the world is going to happen. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen. If something does happen, our minds probably had it worse anyway. So these are 10 things that you can do and think about to deal with imposter syndrome. These are things that I think about, how I get through it. You got to build that muscle. You got to have the courage to get to the confidence. All right? So that's what I got for y'all. I am at Tarot by Bronx. And this is my radio show. On everything.